And congrats, because this is your fourth book, right?
Yes. Yep.
And this one is a big one, the immunity fix, because it's such a hot topic right now, the immune system, what it means, how you could boost it. Are there ways to boost it? I think even that is a question that many doctors are struggling with, and the public, of course, is struggling with. In your book, you go into a lot of what the modern day research and data says. And then you also, and I really appreciate this, you provide actionable steps to use that data to your advantage. What's some of the kind of more interesting data that you saw in this book? And what is it really showing us? Do we have control over our immune system, or is this something we have to kind of wait and see and let doctors help us with things like vaccines and interventions, medical interventions?
So we absolutely do have control of our immune health. And I think some of the most interesting data that was coming out is that if you have metabolic syndrome, which is sort of like this constellation of at least three of five of criteria, which would be elevated blood glucose, blood pressure, waist circumference, triglycerides, and low HDL, which is the good cholesterol. If you have three or more of those sort of risk factors, you are at a 3.5-fold higher risk of dying from COVID and a 4.5-fold higher risk of ending up in the ICU compared to someone who is metabolically healthy. And considering only 12% of the US population actually has good metabolic health, we have 88% of the population can sort of start fixing that and potentially improve their immune systems.
Why is it that 88% of this population in such a modernized and basically said to be one of the best healthcare systems in the world, why is it 88% have this metabolic syndrome that obviously is impacting our immunity?
There's obviously a lot of contributing factors, but I would say the primary one would be that 60% of the calories in the United States is coming from either refined carbohydrates or sugar or refined omega-6 seed oils. And so when the majority of your food is highly processed, that's obviously going to put stress on the pancreas, increase insulin levels, and then from there, you have the increase in triglycerides and all these other sort of metabolic syndrome risk factors that sort of start popping up. And essentially, too, our food, how we grow our food is completely different than how we used to grow our food. And so we've sort of switched over from regenerative farming, where sort of we use animals in a smart way, to using manure and sort of like this nitrogen and carbon sequestrant and, sort of allowing the animals to go to different areas. It's called adaptive multi-paddock grazing, essentially where animals, they don't just graze and destroy one plot of land. They go in slowly and they don't decimate multiple plots of land. And so that keeps the plant life very healthy, and it keeps the soil then healthy. So you don't have runoff, and it keeps the nutrients in the soil. And essentially, if you look at the nutrient content in our food just 50 years ago, there's been on average a reduction of about 30% in many minerals in our vegetables and about 15% in animal foods. So we're now consuming this like nutrient poor diet, even if we're consuming quote unquote whole foods, if you're not getting it from like a regenerative farm.
Right. And I feel that a big issue here also is that we're using more and more, and we're moving more towards that, correct? We're going away a little bit from the way it was. We're depleting the soil. And the trends are going that it's going to continue this way if we don't do something, correct? We're at 30%, you're saying, with most vegetables. We could be at 50% very shortly too. So what can we do about this? Because obviously it's impacting our immune systems, our overall health. What are some of the nutritional pieces here? And I know you wrote this in the book. That's why I want you to recap this. How should we be eating then if we are seeing this depletion of nutrients in our general food that we're buying at grocery stores?
I try to source my food from what's called pastured sources, pastured eggs, pastured meats, and make sure I include liver and heart as well, because liver is super high in minerals that are low in muscle meat, like copper, folate, vitamin A. And eggs, especially pastured eggs, have about 3 to 4 times as much vitamin D compared to your conventional egg. So really, animal foods are a great nutrient-dense way. And then I pair them with certain plant foods like spinach or tubers or onions or garlic, some of the more immuno-boosting properties in those types of foods.
So you're not you're not really going for any one type of diet, let's say, putting a label to it. You're going mostly for quality, I'm hearing, right? You want high quality
Yep.
foods that are going to be the most nutrient dense and give you a variety of different nutrients and a variety of different flavors as well, correct?
Essentially, so what I try to do is I first try to stack my animal foods to hit the RDAs for protein, B12, zinc, and iron. And once you do that, then you can sort of start broadening out and getting all the other little nutrients that are missing in animal foods like manganese, magnesium, calcium. Those tend to be a little bit lower. So I sort of position my foods, like you said, I first go for nutrient dense pastured animal foods, and then I start trying to build an optimal intake of nutrients that are missing from those foods in addition to those.